Hello, 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 everyone.
Hello, Skip.
Hi, how
How
are
are you?
you? Nice to see you,
I'm good.
Mary.
Yeah, you too. How are you today?
I'm pretty well today,
Good.
all things considered.
How's your injury?
Oh, I don't know.
Hello, Miss.
Deb says the black and blue is going down, but the lump is still there quite predominantly. So I don't know.
Mm.
I may have to go get the doctor to drain it or something.
Oh, God. Are you in pain?
No, it's not painful. It's
Oh,
just
good.
it's just there. But
You're aware of it.
well, I'm only aware of it when you ask me about it.
Oh,
Otherwise,
okay.
I'm not even aware of
Oh,
it.
apologies then for asking you about
It's-
it.
No, it's
Reminding you of it.
that's the way life works, though. Things happen that way. How's
Uh,
everybody?
good.
Angie says thumbs up.
Been
Uh,
tired actually. I feel really it's 10 o'clock in the evening now, and I got in
yeah,
from work. And by the time I'd finished, I had a snooze, and I just felt really tired. The sun is getting darker earlier,
yeah,
and just feeling that.
yeah.
Oh,
We still
tired.
have light. It's 5 o'clock here,
Mm.
but it's going to start
Dark
getting.
for a little time.
We're going to have our fall back,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
everything
we've
will
got
be
our split
different.
up. We're going back to GMT.
Yeah. Uh, so this week I've been doing a lot of time on the biography of James Hillman by Dick Russell, the third volume, and it's quite good as an audiobook. I like it. Um, it's got a lot in it. It's a long, long audiobook about, well, I think it's 34 hours.
I know.
Oh,
I was looking at it actually, Skip, because I thought I might start it, but he said he might even do another book as well, and I thought, is he trying to really string it out? Is he doing like a George R. R. Martin?
I,
He's
well,
really trying to
he's
get as
already
many books
apparently he's
out of it as
already
he
written
can.
three. He's already written three.
Yeah,
So this is an author who's living his life on
yeah.
another
I
person's
know.
life. Um, and actually, volume one is quite good and quite interesting
Hmm.
because Hillman was born to a hotel family in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So he grew up in a hotel. And so he has a lot of very interesting stories
Very
uh,
interesting
as a
character.
as a child going around in the laundry
Mm.
of the hotel. And he said, basically, I was born on a sandbar in New Jersey.
Gosh.
And but he certainly had a full life, and I guess he had three wives. It's hard to keep track, but anyway, he um, he finally married somebody who was like 25 years younger than himself, and I think that was his final hurrah. But he married an artist, and so that was good. Okay, so we're here, and I have the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. That's what we're reading. And I am on page 15 of Singing Over the Bones. And if you're looking for where I am, stories are medicine. That's where we are. Um, Now, did I have the electronic version so I could show it to you last week? I don't remember.
So
There's
did
one.
anybody else feel in the week the presence of wild woman turning up in their lives.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I did. Not always tidily either. Quite messy.
Yeah. Well, Wild Woman is messy. She knows how to get along in a complex world. Um, all right, so let me begin with this and then we'll continue. Stories are medicine. I have been taken with stories since I heard my first. They have such power. They do not require that we do, be, act anything. We need only listen. The remedies for repair or um, reclamation of any lost psyche drive are contained in stories. Stories engender the excitement, sadness, questions, longings, and understandings that spontaneously bring the archetype, in this case, Wild Woman, back to the surface. Stories are embedded with instructions which guide us about the complexity of life. Stories enable us to understand the need for the ways to raise a submerged archetype. The stories on the following pages are the ones, out of hundreds, I've studied for decades, that most clearly express the bounty of the wild woman archetype. Sometimes various cultural overlays disarray the bones of stories. For instance, in the case of the Brothers Grimm, among other fairy tale collectors of the past few centuries, there is strong suspicion that the informants, storytellers of that time, sometimes purified their stories for the religious brothers' sake. We also suspect the famous brothers continued the tradition of old pagan symbols overlaid with Christian ones, so that an old healer in a tale became an evil witch, a spirit became an angel, an initiation veil or call uh, became a handkerchief, or a child named Beautiful, the customary name for a child born during solstice festival, was renamed Schmerzenreich, sorrowful. Sexual elements, just a sec. Okay. Sexual sexual elements were omitted, helping creatures and animals helping creatures and animals were changed into demons and boogies. Uh, this is how many women's teaching tales about sex, love, money, marriage, birthing, death, and transformation were lost. It is how fairy tales and myths that explicate ancient women's mysteries have been covered over, too. Most old collections of fairy tales and mythos existent today have been scoured clean of the scatological, the sexual, the perverse, the pre-Christian, the feminine, the goddesses, the initiatory, the medicines for various psychological malaises, and the directions for spiritual raptures. But they are not lost forever. In each story, in each story fragment is the shape of the entire story. It's poked about us. It's poked about in what I playfully call fairy tale forensics and paleomythology. I compare many versions of the same tale and collect as many new and old versions of it as I can. Then I compare the forms, reconstructing from ancient archetypal patterns, um, patternings learned through my years of training in archetypal psychology, which and preserves and studies all the motifs and plots in fairy tales, legends, and myths to older to in order to apprehend the instinctual lives of humans. I gain an assist from templates that lie in the imaginal worlds and the collective unconscious of all humans, and that we can draw up through dreams and non-ordinary states of consciousness. Often, in a final polish can often a final polish can be gained by comparing the story versions with archaeological evidence from the ancient female cultures themselves, such as ritual pottery, masks, and figurines. Simply put, in fairy tale location, I spend much time raking the ashes with my nose. I have I've been studying archetypal patterns for 20 some years and myths, fairy tales, and folklore for far longer. I have learned a vast body of knowledge about the bones of stories. It is easy to tell where the bones are missing in a story. Through the centuries, various conquests of nations by other nations, and both peaceful and forced religious conversions have covered over or altered the original core of the old stories. Anybody want to comment here? We go forward.
I was pre-reading this part because I need to follow the Swedish
Oh,
in
yeah.
Swedish, and I was crying. I was so moved. I was
Yeah.
totally crying because I have heard it and thought about it, but not. It's like the power of the truth that so much has been uh, mixed in.
Yeah. Hidden from us.
Yes, hidden.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hidden from us by our own priests,
yes,
etc., who thought it better to tell a story one way rather than another in order to increase the collection plate.
yes, and how it goes through us as children. That was the feeling. I got it in a deeper way this time. Uh, I think because I'm reading it in Swedish,
Uh-huh.
it's a different level, and I'm I was reading it when I was maybe 40 years old,
Hmm.
90 years. I can't count the words, and I'm so almost shocked. Why did I stop? Why did I put off this um, book again? Why didn't I do something more with it? 30 years later, and I'm here again.
Yeah.
Because
Um,
the surrounding culture is the same, of course. I couldn't do something about it. Was it there? That's why, maybe. I had to be in the culture I was living in, and this thinking was too radical for me.
uh,
Maybe I was working with dreams, but that was a special thing.
yeah. Well, I think that we get paved over by our capitalism in the Hillman book. Um, right now, he called capitalism just a nicer way of saying greed.
Yeah,
And we're, for example, the business schools sell capitalism very heavily, and uh, and now the business schools have really taught MBAs to suck all the juice out of a company, just like our president is right now trying to suck all the juice out of the United States. He won't be able to, but he thinks he can. And but over at least the last 500 years, um, the scientific method and capitalism have sucked the juice out of the religious, if you will,
Yeah.
and they want to control uh, they want to control childbirth, for example, and what are you doing there, Dorothy? What is that you have there? Is that a pet?
Is it me?
Well, I mean, I see, I can see your hand like this, right?
Oh yeah, look, I've got a skin condition and
Oh,
I'm
I
just
see.
rubbing something into
Oh,
I
okay. Well,
thought I
no,
did it that
no objection, but I
no,
just,
but there's a cat as well,
oh,
and
okay.
the cat had a wild woman evening last night. She had an operation on
Uh-huh.
Wednesday and she's
Oh,
been confined and she broke out last night.
oh, geez.
And I've had a bit of a sleepless night because she's got a bandage on her leg and she
Uh-huh.
doesn't have any teeth. And I was worried she could get into a fight. And, you know,
Uh,
so of course she came back like a bad penny, but she was the wild woman. But can I just add a little bit to that? And
sure.
that is the way that women are required to edit their appearance.
Yeah.
Also
And their
very big,
opinions. Yeah, surely.
very big. But like, as you can see, I've got slightly wild hair and very wild hair, and it's always been problematic. I mean, people have sort of said to me, look, nobody will take you seriously as a lawyer with hair like that. You've got to straighten it and pull it down. And even I had a housemate because there was a newsreader in Australia and she has this glorious red curly hair. And my housemate was saying, kind of a passive aggressive way of telling me how irritating she found my hair was to say that she was really irritated by that newsreader's hair. She and I felt it's elemental about the way we require women to be very groomed, very restrained, very like if you're in a position where you're going to be taken seriously as a woman, you've got to be so edited and
Really?
so groomed and everything. And
Do you
like,
know, I just tell people to fuck off if they say
well,
I wouldn't
that's
even
refreshing.
entertain it.
More
So I'm
power
a
to the
woman,
wild
so
women.
nobody's going to oppress me like that.
Well, that is refreshing. And I've been actually, you know what, Angie, the whole thing that we're required to be nice. You know that women have to be nice all the
It
time.
makes us stronger. It makes
But-
what?
And I've discovered, by the way, this is the first morning light coming in on my face. And it's meant to be really empowering to sit in the morning light. Anyway, yeah, just how you're meant to sort of curate. And women, I find, as a result, because they can't say what they really think, you get all this displacement activity of sort of passive aggressive BS. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do know what you mean because
And
I,
it's you're like, can't we just sort of come out with it? And like, not everybody's going to like you all the time, especially in the workplace.
oh
And
yeah.
so there's you don't we should be able to accommodate different types and accommodate the slightly wild woman, the slightly opinionated wild woman, and not feel the need to sort of edit her and tell her how she should be dressing and tell her what she should be doing with her hair. And anyway, I'm just raving a little bit, but I just felt I really resonate with that. And Angie's advice, I've started to over the past week.
It's
You know,
simple.
I
Just keep
think
it simple, you know.
I
There's
think
no
it's
need for conversation. You feel that oppression, you tell the person to F off.
you can even do it with
We don't need to be liked. If
yeah,
people,
but
you
it's
know,
so strong in women. Like I even had this friend who was a lawyer, and she was saying, you know, how you have to, because she was saying, oh, I'm
men get it
exhausted.
as well, you know. I think men worry about performance in different ways. And I think, as Skip was saying earlier, this is capitalism being the good citizen, doing things the right way, and
Mm.
it's part of the oppression. And there are
Yeah, but
cultural differences in that, but
it's putting a veneer on greed
it is, yeah,
and a veneer on power.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
It's also getting you to be, it's trivializing you too, because if you're concerned about appearance all the time and fitting in and everything, you haven't got the energy to think about or be your authentic self and think about the truly meaningful stuff, constantly fighting with shadows.
In the UK at the moment, where there have been 13,000 arrests in the last year for people making posts on Facebook, and in the street, the police arrested somebody for calling somebody a muppet. So we're in a situation in the UK that we're in a dangerous situation that, well, it's like you don't even, they can check text messages or two. Should I read on here, Skip? Was it,
yeah,
but
if
there
you
is good
wish, do you
news.
know where we are?
I'll read a little bit and then I'll grab a coffee. But I'm
Okay.
going from, but there is good news. How about that?
Yep, that's good. That's good.
Okay. But there is good news. For all the structural tumble down in existing versions of Tales, there is a strong pattern that still shines forth. From the form and shape of the pieces and parts, it can be determined with good accuracy what has been lost from the story, and those missing pieces can be redrawn accurately, often revealing amazing understructures which begin to heal women's sadness that so much of the old mysteries has been destroyed. It is not quite so, they have not been destroyed. All one might need, all that might ever need, is still whispering from the bones of the story. Collecting the essence of the stories is a constant paleontologic endeavor. I've never heard that word before.
Paleontol Paleontologic.
Thank you.
Yep.
The more story bones, the more likely the integral structure can be found. The more whole the stories, the more subtle twists and turns of the psyche are presented to us, and the better opportunity we have to apprehend and evoke our soul work. When we work the soul, she, the wild woman, creates more of herself. As a child, I was lucky to be surrounded by people from many of the old European countries and Mexico. Many members of my family, my neighbors and friends, had recently arrived from Hungary, Germany, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Serbia, Serbo-Croatia, Russia, Lithuania, and Bohemia, as well as Jalisco. Oh, I can't say this one. What's that, Skip? Micho something.
I don't know. They changed the words here for me.
Duras, and many of the Aldus, if you want to correct me, anybody, frontiers, villages at the Mexico, Texas, Arizona borders. They and many others, Native Americans, people from Appalachia, Asian immigrants, and many African American families from the South. Let me go on. From the South. Where are we? What page is that? Oh, I've got it. I lost it
17.
because I did 17.
Bottom
Okay.
of 17.
We're nearly on chapter 1, which is very good.
Hmm.
17. No, that's not 17. I just was reading it. Well, from the south came to the farm to pick up. Okay, so families from the south came to farm, to pick, to work in the ash pits and steel mills, the breweries, in domestic jobs. Most were not educated in the academic sense, yet they were intensely wise. They were the bearers of a valuable and almost pure oral tradition. Many of the families and neighboring people who surrounded me had survived forced labor camps, displaced person camps, deportation camps, and concentration camps, where the storytellers among them had lived a nightmare version of. Do you know what the.
Scheherazade.
Can you say that again?
Scheherazade. Scheherazade.
Thank you very much. Many had their family lands taken, had lived in immigration jails, and been repatriated against their wills. From these rustic storytellers, I first learned the tales people tell when life may turn to death and death may turn into life at any moment, because their transmissions to me were so filled with suffering and with hope. When I later grew old enough to read, I've just lost my place. Hang on a minute. I was scrolling, so I've lost my space. Many of them come from there because the transmissions were so filled. Okay. When I later grew old enough to read fairy stories printed in books, the latter seemed curiously starched and ironed flat in comparison. As a young adult, I migrated west towards the continental divide. I lived amidst loving Jewish, Irish, Greek, Italian, and Afro-America and Alstanian strangers who became kindred spirits and friends. I've been blessed to
Alsatian.
know. Sorry?
Alsatian.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've been
straight.
blessed to know some of the rare old Latino communities from the southern USA, such as Trampas and Truchas, New Mexico. I was fortunate enough to spend time with the Native American friends and relatives from the Inuit.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got that?
Inuit, yes.
Okay. In the north, through the Pueblo,
Pueblo.
and plains peoples in the west, to the Nahas, Lacandons, Tuhunas, sorry, perhaps I could do with help here.
Tehuantepec.
Okay, Hukiluki,
Ukol.
Maya Quishis, Maya, Kakilikus. I think somebody else could do really well with this, Mertz. I think he might
Mosquito.
get the
Kuna
pronunciations there.
Nazca.
Kunas, be careful there. Kunos, and Givros in the Central and South America. I'm sure Mertz could do much better there. I have traded stories with sister and brother healers at kitchen tables and under grape arbors in hen houses and dairy barns while patting tortillas, tracking wildlife and sewing the millionth cross stitch. I have been lucky to share the last bowl of chili, to sing with gospel women as to raise the dead, and to sleep under the stars in houses without roofs. I've sat down to the fire or dinner or both in Little Italy, Polish Town, the Hill Country, Los Barrios, and other ethnic communities throughout the urban Midwest and Far West, and most recently traded stories about spar rats, bad
Barats.
ghosts.
Bad
Sorry?
ghosts. Yeah, bad ghosts.
With man-groit friends in the Bahamas. She's really going for it here. I have been double lucky with that. Wherever I've gone, the children, the matrons, the men in their prime, and the old coots and crones, the soul artists, have crept out of the woods, jungles, meadows, and sandhills to regale me with the caws and cavils, and I too them. Do you want to go on to somebody else there?
You're doing great. Hi, Tim.
Okay. I can do a bit more. There are many ways to approach stories. The professional folklorist, the Jungian, Freudian, or other sort of analyst, the anthologist, anthropologist, archaeologist.
Theologian,
Yeah, each has a different method, both in collecting tales and the use to which they are put. Intellectually, the way I developed my work with stories was through my training in the analytical and archetypal psychology. For more than half a decade during my psychoanalytic training, I studied amplification of leitmotifs, archetypal
yeah.
symbology, world mythology, ancient and popular iconology, ethnology, world religions, and interpretation. Viscerally, however, I come to stories as a cantandora, keeper of the old stories. I come from a long line of tellers, mesmoldok, old Hungarian women who might as easily tell while sitting on wooden chairs with their plastic pocketbooks on their lap, their knees apart, their skirts touching the ground, or while wringing the neck of a chicken. And Untias, old Latina women who stand robust of breast hip wide and cry out the story of ranchera style. Both clans storytell in the plain voice of women who have lived blood and babies, bread and bones. For us, the story is medicine with which strengthens. For us, the story is medicine which strengthens and rights the individual and the community. Those who have taken on the responsibilities of this craft are committed to the Numen behind the craft and the direct descendants of an immense and ancient community of holy people, troubadours, bards, groits, cantadoras, cantors, travelling poets, bums, hags, and crazy people. I often dreamt I was telling stories, and I felt someone patting my foot in encouragement. I looked down and I saw I was standing on the shoulders of an old woman who was steadying my ankles and smiling up at me. I said to her, "No, no, come stand on my shoulders, for you are old, I am young." "No, no," she insisted. "This is the way it's supposed to be." Okay. Do you want to go from there?
Yeah.
I saw
I
that she
saw that she stood on the shoulders of a woman far older than she, who stood on the shoulders of a woman even older, who stood on the shoulders of a woman in robes, who stood on the shoulders of another soul, who stood on the shoulders, etc. I believe the old dream woman about the way it was supposed to be. The nurture of telling stories comes from those who have gone before. Telling or hearing stories draws its power from a towering column of humanity, joined one to the other across time and space, elaborately dressed in the rags and robes of nakedness of their time, and filled to the bursting with life still being lived. If there is a single source of story and the numen of story, this long chain of humans is it. Story is far older than the art of and science of psychology, and will always be the elder in the equation, no matter how much time passes. One of the oldest ways of telling, which intrigues me greatly, is the passionate trance state, wherein the teller senses the audience, be it an audience of one or of many, and then enters a state in the world between worlds, where a story is attracted to the trance teller and told through her. This is the storyteller furthering soul making. I just came from an incident of this where
Okay, I can go on. The trance teller calls
yeah,
Duende. Sorry?
just a moment, I want to tell my story.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said you didn't know where you were in the story.
No,
Sorry.
no, I
I misread. I misheard you.
I
That's fine.
wanted to tell you what happened to me today just before I
Okay.
came here. In my fifth period, I have a planning period, and uh, three of my colleagues were in in the room with me, and one of them who's a woman who's married to a Filipino. She's a black woman married to a Filipino, and she was raised some Baptist, I think, and her husband is Catholic and insists on the kids being raised Catholic. She was describing uh, going to Catholic church and what it was like from her point of view. And one of my colleagues is a ordained reverend, okay, who went to Liberty University. And then the other person that was there was a woman who comes in and works with us on transitions. Um, and so I don't know, I usually don't do this at all, but and I'm very careful because my reverend colleague is a born again, very fundamentalist Christian. But I spoke up and I started to speak, and suddenly there was a kind of hush, and everybody turned to me, and she said, "Well, I've just been learning something about Buddhism, that it goes as far as China and Japan." And I said, "Oh yeah." And Debbie gave me a little 3D printed Buddha for my birthday. And so I put that on my one of my cases. And I said, "But this guy, what's this guy doing? All he's doing is meditating. That's it." And I don't know, one thing led to another, and 30 minutes later, we came out of the story and went home. But uh, I'm now trying to encourage Tim to to organize some of his stories, which are so brilliant, on his Patreon page. If you haven't seen Tim Holmes's Patreon page, it's really very special. He doesn't charge anything for you to participate, and every day he's writing a short sermonette or story, or I don't know, what would you call it, Tim?
A little look at the sausage making of art.
Okay, a little look at the sausage making of art. Okay. But it's truly far more than that. Uh, and it's often numinous. And and so I'm trying to get him to organize it so that there's a book about it. But anyway, okay, so going on.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah. Story is far older than the art and science of psychology. I guess we read that.
It's the trance teller.
Yeah, the trance teller calls El Duende the wind that blows soul uh, into the faces of listeners. The trance teller learns to be psychically double jointed through the meditative practice of story. That is, training oneself to undo certain psychic gates and ego apertures in order to let the voice speak, the voice that is older than the stories. When this is done, the story may take any trail, be turned upside down, be filled with porridge and dumped out for a poor person's feast, be filled with gold for the taking, or chase the listener into the next world. The teller never knows how it will all come out. And that is at least half of the moist magic of story. This is a book of tellings about the ways of the wild woman archetype. To try to
Hook. It was a hook. This is a hook.
Yeah. Well, here it says it's a book, but
Oh, it's got a hook
there
here.
there were a few changes from the British version or vice versa. Okay, so this is a hook of
In in the Brazilian translation is translated as livro and it means book.
yeah.
Book. Okay. I've got
Yes.
hook. Same
Yeah.
thing, really, I guess. Hook and
Well,
a book.
yeah. I mean, in a way, it is. Tellings about the ways of the wild woman archetype, to try to diagram her, to draw boxes around her psychic life would be contrary to her spirit. To know her is an ongoing process, a lifelong process, and that is why this work is an ongoing work, a lifelong work. So here are some stories to use as soul vitamins, some observations, some map fragments, some little pieces of pine pitch for fascinating feathers to trees to show the way, and some flattened underbrush to guide the way to El Mundo Subterraneo, the underground world, our psychic home. Stories. I can't go on.
I'll do it. I'll have a go. Because we got one page and then we go to the book, which is fantastic. Stories set the inner life into motion, and this is particularly important where the inner life is frightened, wedged, or cornered. Story greases the hoists and pulleys. It causes adrenaline to surge, shows us the way out, down or up, for our trouble, cuts for us fine wide doors in previously blank walls, openings, and leads to the dreamland that lead to love and learning, that lead us back to our own real lives as knowing wildish women. Stories like Bluebeard brings us the news of just what to do about the woman's wound that will not cease its bleeding. Stories like The Skeleton Woman demonstrate the mystical power of relationship and how the deadened feeling can return to life and deep loving once again. The gifts of Old Mother Death are to be found in the character of Baba Yaga, the old wild hag, the little doll who shows the way when all seems lost, raises one of the lost womanly instinctual arts to the surface again. In Vasilia the Wise, stories like Loloba, a bone woman in the desert, teach us about transformative function of the psyche. The Handless Maiden recovers the lost stages of the old initiation rites from ancient times, and such offers a timeless and lifelong guidance for all the years of a woman's life. It is our brush with the wild nature that drives us not to limit our conversations to humans, not to limit our most splendid movements to dance floors, nor our ears only to music made by human-made instruments, nor our eyes to taught beauty, nor our bodies to approved sensations, nor our minds to those things we all agree upon already. All these stories present the knife of insight, the flame of passionate life, the breath to speak what one knows, the courage to stand what one sees without looking away, the fragrance of the wild soul. This is a book of women's stories held out as markers along the path. They are for you to read and contemplate in order to assist you towards your own natural one freedom. Your caring for self, animals, earth, children, sisters, lovers, and men. I'll tell you right now, the doors to the world of the wild self are few but precious. If you have a deep scar, that is the door. If you have an old story, that is the door. If you love the sky and the water so much you almost cannot bear it, that is a door. If you yearn for a deeper life, a full life, a sane life, that is a door. The material in this book was chosen to embolden you. The work is offered as a fortification for those on their way, including those who toil in different inner landscapes, as well as those who toil in and for the world. We must strive to allow our souls to grow in their natural ways and to their natural depths, The wildish nature does. Oh, I've lost it.
The wildish nature
Like,
does
reading
not
it for
require
me.
a woman to be
Can
a
you read it
certain.
from there? You got it.
Yeah. The wildish nature does not require a woman to be of a certain color, a certain education, or a certain lifestyle or economic class. In fact, it cannot thrive in an atmosphere of enforced political correctness or by being bent into old, burnt out paradigms. It strives on fresh sight and self integrity. It thrives on its own nature. So, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, a woman loving woman or a man loving woman, or a God loving woman, or all of the above, whether you are possessed for a simple heart or of a simple heart or the ambitious of ambitions of an Amazon, whether you are trying to make it to the top or just make it through tomorrow, whether you are spicy or somewhat somber, regal or roughshod, the wild woman belongs to you. She belongs to all women. To find the wild woman, it is necessary for women to return to their instinctive lives, their deepest knowing. So let us push on now and remember ourselves back to the wild woman's soul. Let us sing her flesh back onto our bones, shed any false coats we have been given, don the true coat of powerful instinct and knowing, infiltrate the psychic lands that once belonged to us, unfurl the bandages, ready for medicine. Let us return now, wild woman howling, laughing, singing up the one who loves us so. For us, the issue is simple. Without us, wild woman dies. Without wild woman, we die. Para vida, for true life, both must live. And I would just add to this that, men loving women too. I mean, this whole book resonated with me. And as I said the first time I picked it up, I read it straight through in 2 days. And it had been a
Wow.
gift. It had been given to my wife on Christmas when it first came out. And I started reading it on the 26th of December, and I finished on the 28th. And I wouldn't let her look at it until I'd read it cover to cover. And so it certainly resonated with me even then, although it just resonated with me right from the start. And I didn't see the issue of gender being relevant per se. And so that's my testimony. What else?
I would think that the quote, the modern corporation is the new face of fascism, is also part of it too. The fact that we're so regimented. I mean, I understand you've got the military background as well, and regimentation's necessary in some respects, but we have to be able to slip in to another mode and to know who we really are.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy to be exhausted by distraction, but also be self-editing to such an extent that you lose sight of that wildness. And I also thought in some of these earlier bits were about the reading, about the book, and about the timelessness of the stories being beyond an individual is so connected with the notion of the muse or the collective unconscious or whatever it is, you know, that whole thing. Like now it's much more acceptable to go up to a tree and really connect with that tree. And it's been a label, you know, you're a tree hugger. It's like a derogatory term, but actually connecting to nature in that way is connecting with our wildness and our spirit. Anyway, I just thought I'd add to that without raving too much.
Better than being a muppet.
Well,
Do you
Tim
start
is.
this first? Do you think we
I'd
should
rather be a
start the
tree
chapter
hugger
with
than a
a howl?
muppet.
Barnaby, do you think we should start, whoever's reading this next chapter, should they start with a howl? Because it's called The Howl. I think
Okay.
that we should
Who's
all
gonna
howl
howl?
like a wolf. We should start it with a howl, definitely.
Because I
I did the howl.
grew
Who's
up in
next?
because
Skip, give us a howl.
Oh.
We give you a marine owl. Huh.
What about you, Tim?
When
Tim.
I was in Pacifica, there were nights that our class we would go outside and howl. And there was new groups, new students coming all the time. And one of these groups come later. And in the morning, somebody at the breakfast, this girl told me, "Is there wolves here?" Because I hear howling. So no, it was us.
How lovely. How lovely.
I had a German housemate, and her father was a lawyer, and he would sometimes go out into the woods and just howl, just scream, just let it out, you know.
Yeah.
And I think having that wisdom to know to do that, it's so wonderful. Because I grew up in the country, I've got that elemental thing, I guess, in a way, you know, plus the hair. But I remember I think it's the sense of self. Somebody who has a strong sense of self is considered a threat. You know, like if you, I don't know, if you have a sense of your own, because a lot of people are about power and influence and they want to influence you. And I remember going on a date with this guy and he was trying to do what they call negging, which is to give you a compliment but have it twisted into a negative thing. And he said to me, he got fed up with me and he said, "You've got a really strong sense of self," he said, like it was a bad thing. And I think it's connected with that elemental thing. Anyway, it's just, but it's high, that obsession with dominating others. I
Yeah.
think it's, you got to get ahead. You got to, anyway, that's enough. But that's what struck my mind. And I think if you've been very connected with the country, and to me, tree hugging's quite normal. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, well, shall we tell a
Shall I read
story? Mhm.
Shall I read? Shall I read a bit?
Yeah, please.
Okay, chapter 1, The Howl, Resurrection of the Wild Woman, La Loba, the Wolf Woman. I must reveal to you that I am not one of the divine who march into the desert and return gravid with wisdom. I've travelled many cook fires and spread angel bait around every sleeping place. But more often than getting the wisdom, I've gotten indelicate episodes of E. coli and ambient dysentery. Aye. Such is the fate. Such is the fate of a middle-class mystic with delicate intestines. Whatever wisdom or notion I espied on my travels to odd places and unusual people, I learned to shelter for sometimes old Father Academy like Kronos, still has an inclination to eat the children before they become either curative or astonishing. Intellectualization can obscure the patterns of the instinctual nature of women. So, to further our kinship relationship, the instinctual nature, it assists greatly if we understand stories as though we are inside them, rather than as though they are outside of us. We enter into a story through the door of an inner hearing. The spoken story touches the auditory nerve, which runs across the floor of the skull into the brainstem, just below the pons. There, auditory impulses are relayed upward to consciousness, or else it is said, to the soul, depending on the attitude with which one listens. Ancient disectionists spoke of the auditory nerve being divided into 3 or more pathways deep in the brain. They surmised that the ear was meant, therefore, to hear at 3 different levels. One pathway was said to hear the mundane conversations of the world. A second pathway apprehended learning and art. And the third pathway existed so that the soul itself might hear guidance and gain knowledge while here on earth. Listen, then, with the soul hearing now, for that is the mission of story. Bone by bone, hair by hair, wild woman comes back. Through night dreams, through events half understood and half remembered. Wild woman comes back. She comes back through story. I began my own migration across the United States in the 1960s, looking for a settling place that was dense and with trees, fragrant with water and populated by the creatures I loved: bear, fox, snake, eagle, wolf. The wolves were being systematically exterminated from the upper Great Lakes region. No matter where I went, the wolves were being hounded in one way or another. Although many spoke of them as menaces, I always felt safer when there were wolves in the woods. Out west and in the north, in those times you could camp and hear the mountains, forests sing at night. But even there, the age of scope rifles, jeep-mounted Klieg lights and arsenic treats caused an age of silence to creep over the land. Soon the Rockies were almost empty of wolves too. That is how I came to the Great Desert, which lies in half Mexico, half in the United States. And the further south I traveled, the more stories I heard about wolves. You see, it is told that there is a place in the desert where the spirit of women, and the spirit of wolves meet across time. I felt I was so onto something when in the Texas borderlands, I heard the story of Loba Girl, about a woman who was half wolf and half woman. Next, I found an ancient Aztec story of orphan twins being breastfed by a she-wolf until the children were old enough to stand on their own. And finally, from the old Spanish land grant fanners, the
Pueblo.
Thank you, people of the Southwest. I heard one-line reports about the bone people, the old ones who bring the dead back to life. They were said to restore both humans and animals. Then, on one of my own ethnographic expeditions, I met a bone woman and have never been quite the same since. Allow me to present a first-hand account and introduction. Who wants to read La Loba? Do you want me to keep going? Does somebody want to read La Loba bit? Does Diane want to read it? Diane, you've got a nice reading voice. La Loba.
Do you want to read this story here, Diane?
Would you like to read a little bit?
We cannot hear you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
La Loba.
There's an old woman who lives in a hidden place that everyone knows in their souls, but few have ever seen. As in the fairy tales of Eastern Europe, she seems to wait for lost or wandering people and seekers to come to her place. She is circumspect, often hairy, always fat, and especially wishes to evade most company. She is both a crower and a cackler, generally having more animal sounds than human ones. I might say she lives among the rotten granite slopes in Tara, Tarawamara, Indian Territory, or that she is buried outside Phoenix near a well. Perhaps she will be seen traveling south to Alban in a burnt out car with the back window shot out. Or maybe she will be spotted standing by the highway near El Paso, or riding shotgun with truckers to Morelia, Mexico, or walking to a market above Oaxaca, Osaka, with strangely formed boughs of firewood on her back. She calls herself by many names: La Huesera, Bone Woman; La, Tropa, La Tropera, the Gatherer; and La Loba, Wolf Woman. The sole work of La Loba is collecting of bones. She collects and preserves especially that which is in danger of being lost to the world. Her cave is filled with the bones of all manner of desert creatures: the deer, the rattlesnake, the crow, but her specialty is wolves. She creeps and crawls and sifts through the montañas, mountains, and arroyas, dry riverbeds, looking for wolf bones. And when she has assembled an entire skeleton, when the last bone is in place and the beautiful white sculpture of the creature is laid out before her, she sits by the fire and thinks about what song she will sing. And when she is sure, she stands over the criatura, raises her arms over it, and sings out. That is when the rib bones and leg bones of the wolf begin to flesh out and the creature becomes furred. La Loba sings more, some more, and more of the creature comes into being. Its tail curls upward, shaggy and strong, and La Loba sings more, and the wolf creature begins to breathe. And still La Loba sings so deeply that the floor of the desert shakes. And as she sings, the wolf opens its eyes, leaps up, and runs away down the canyon. Somewhere in its running, whether by the speed of its running or by splashing its way into a river, or by way of a ray of sunlight or moonlight hitting it right in the side, the wolf is suddenly transformed into a laughing woman who runs free toward the horizon. So remember, if you wander the desert and it is near sundown and you are perhaps a little bit lost and certainly tired, that you are lucky, for La Loba may take a liking to you and show you something, something of the soul.
Mm.
Thank you, Diane. That was beautiful. It's actually, you made the hairs on my arms all stand up.
You're listening with your
Lovely.
soul ear. You're listening with your soul ear. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Shall I continue?
If you wish,
Yeah.
I think we can do the one more story, and
Well, this story's not finished, I don't think.
well, we can read to the four rabbinum.
Where
Okay.
are we?
What time is it? Oh, it's 5:06.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm losing it. I have to be on station for a training at 7:30 in the morning, 1 hour from here. So I have to
Yeah.
leave my house at 6:30 in the morning
Mm.
to be there. So speaking of society controlling my life, that's the way it is. Yeah,
So
Can
maybe we
I
should.
share something
yeah,
with you guys?
please.
So this book was suggested to me many years ago, many times, but I never read it. And this week when Penelope told me that you just started reading it, I listened to the Audible. The Audible doesn't have chapters. It has part one and part two. So I listened to part one like 3 times. And I have the same feeling as Eva was expressing today, that how did I miss that? And I wish I had read this book many years ago,
Yeah,
because I
is Clarissa Pinkola reading the book? Because
yes,
she's a
beautiful.
beautiful reader, beautiful
She is,
reader.
she is, and she sings and everything. And this part that she's talking about the bone collector,
Hmm.
then La Loba, that it gives life back to the animal, like growing flesh on the bones and the fur by singing. It was really interesting to me because I've been thinking and having experiences with the bone collector for, I think, 6, 7 years now. I understand the concept of bone collecting. You get the essence of your experiences. And I realized that it is not only necessary for the rebirth, but it is something that keeps you young inside.
Yes.
Because experience, the accumulation of experience makes you old and heavy.
Yeah.
But when you extract the essence of your life experiences,
Mm-hmm.
like each of them, you get the bone and it's light. And this is why I think I can relate to young people. All my life I was relating to people 20, 30 years younger than me. Um, because until recently that I don't have much contact with young people, and I feel heavy. I feel like I know everything. I'm not curious about anything. It's just like everything is a red book. Because because I've become heavy
Hmm.
with this all knowledge and with this knowing and this experience. So I think bone collector is really interesting, but I was never thinking about how you grow flesh on that bone, how you grow fur. And it's really an interesting and new concept to me. And I'm thinking, what does it mean to sing?
Yeah. But
What
I
does
think
it
that
mean
singing,
to
I think,
singing back to life?
yeah.
It's
Singing back,
really,
I think the bit where she says La Loba sings some more and more of the creature comes into being.
yeah,
And that is when the ribs and the legs of the wolf begin to flesh out and creature becomes furred. So I think that what does happen, and I found this after the menopause, like the shrinking of being a woman, and then now I feel like I'm coming into my fullness, even though I'm quite small. I looked in the mirror today and I thought, oh, I'm filling out. I'm filling out, but I don't mean from a look. I mean from the soul perspective that I'm filling out. And I liked that look,
Hmm.
unwashed hair,
wholeness. It's a kind
little
of
makeup.
wholeness.
Hmm?
It's a kind of wholeness, becoming whole again.
Yeah,
Do you think
yeah,
it might be to do with find that path to individuation where you find your song? Our own song will be different for each one of
Or-
us.
yeah,
Surely.
And finding the song is like the path to the maze, walking the maze and finding your song along the way, singing a bit, then taking the wrong step, and then you sing a little bit more, takes you in the right direction. It's a tricky path to navigate.
It
And
is.
And
singing your song
it's
is
also about nature. Like there's nature and there's nature. Like in Bay Area, there is nature. You can go to redwoods and have a cabin there and live in nature, so to say. But the nature here is very polished.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just everything, even redwoods, which is
Yeah.
very primitive atmosphere. It just polished. And I see this, and when we talk about these wolves in us, I feel the wolf in me is really angry,
Good.
really, really angry, and I
Yeah.
can eat. And I hunted my friends and killed them, these little creatures, fake spiritual assholes.
I like that.
But when the wolf is free and they're in their natural, really natural environment, they're just fantastic creatures. But as we were earlier talking about capitalism and how it's greed, I see the wolf here in capitalism, but it's a really suppressed and nasty and angry wolf
Oh, yeah.
that wants to hunt everybody and kill everybody and just
A
be
wolf will
selfish.
kill when it's hungry. It'll kill to feed its young. It'll keep moving and it'll kill for food, but it doesn't just stockpile.
Yeah.
And that's where the greed comes
There's
in.
nothing wrong with killing. I'm
No,
totally
it's the
okay with killing,
stockpiling.
but when it
Stockpiling.
becomes something that you get stuck in it and becomes your nature, you're doing it all the time, it
Collecting
not happen.
carcasses for the sake of it is
Yeah.
waste.
I think the singing over the bones has to do also with um, seeing nature in a different way. I mean, this is what Tim does all the time in his painting, where he's doing the dancing world. He sees a building, but that isn't the building that he puts on his canvas. Instead, the building is dancing and is alive, is really, really alive. And um,
I want to say something about people's faces as they get older, and it's connecting up with what Azin is saying. And I think that now when I'm walking down, I'm looking for somebody who's got energy inside, that they've done that transformative thing Diane was mentioning too, about processing what's happened, and then you decide to let go. So it's the discarding thing as well, and then picking up the essential out of that experience. Because it's, I think, one of the things that makes you feel older and heavy is when you're weighed down by injustices that happened, because God knows we've all got them, that have happened to us, and unresolved things. But I don't know, last night I was having some experiences just of connecting up with that. It's hard to explain, but just that sense of the self as being so much beyond what we are, just here and now. And anyway, just now when I'm deciding who to speak to, like when you're going somewhere and you go, I'll speak to that person, because they're alive. They've got the vivacity in them. no matter what they, because I was talking to somebody yesterday and because she had a fantastic haircut, and I said, wow, that's so great. And we fell into conversation, and she said, I'm 82. I said, well, you're going so fantastically well. And she's so young in her attitude. She's not weighed down by that stuff. And I feel like we get the face we deserve as we get older. It's a truism. You know what I'm saying?
And fake people, they're killing me.
Yeah.
They're killing me. And like last week, I have this very super rich friend, and she had an accident and she broke her knee. So she was sending these voices to everybody that, or because she was in a facility for physiotherapy and something, and she's very like everybody just because she's rich, they're treating her very respectfully or something. And she was saying that, oh, I'm so relieved because here nobody knows me. And she was sending these voice messages about how she feels being no one and how spiritual it is when you feel you're no one. And I wrote to her that you want to be no one, take your crutch and go sit by the on the street somewhere and don't eat for 3 days and see what it means to be nobody,
Yeah.
what it means to be invisible. And when I first came to America, I didn't have anything. I was left on the street with $43 in my pocket. And I remember that I was sitting in a park. I didn't have money to buy a pair of socks. And I saw this pair of socks in the children playground, and I took it because I needed that. And I still have that pair of socks. And I said, let me know when you want to borrow that socks. With 20 cars and 15 buildings and just like all that you have. And they really think that they're spiritual and they're really experiencing it. It's not, and for someone who thinks that she's a nobody, she just blocked me after like 20 years and stuff, and this megalomaniac reaction from somebody who claims to be nobody. So it just, I was, as I reading this book and listening to this book, I see this is why I hate people so much in recent years. And I'm thinking that, oh, I wish I spent my life with plants and animals. I wasted my life on people. And I'm reading this book and I said, no, this is the fake people I hate. This is the selfish people I hate. And that's why I'm isolated. There are other peoples in this life, in this world, that are alive and honest and full of spirit.
Mm.
So this is really a breakthrough for me reading this book, and I thank all of you.
Great.
Shall I read some more?
just
That was
want
lovely
to-
to
Yeah.
hear us in.
Thank you. Yeah, let's read on to this next,
You want me to read on?
this
don't know
next
where we
3.5
left.
pages. And
Okay,
then,
I don't know where we left. Was it and La Loba sings more of the wolf? Where did we
no,
leave it off, Diane?
we all begin as a bundle of bones, lost somewhere in a desert.
We all begin as a bundle of bones lost somewhere in a desert, a dismantled skeleton that lies under the sand. It is our work to recover the parts. It is a painstaking process, best done when the shadows are just right, for it takes much looking. La Loba indicates what we are to look for, the indestructible life force, the bones. The work of La Loba can be thought of as representing a cuquento milagro, a miracle story, a miracle story. It shows us what we can go right for the soul. It shows us what can go right for the soul. What can go right for our souls, hey? What can go right for the soul? It is a resurrection story about the underworld connection to the wild woman. It promises that if we will sing the song, we can call up the psychic remains of the wild soul and sing her into vital shape again. La Loba sings over the bones she has gathered. To sing means to use the soul voice. It means to say on the breath of the truth of one's power and one's need to breathe soul over the thing that is ailing or in need of restoration. So we need to breathe soul back into ourselves. This is done by descending into the deepest mood of great love and feeling till one's desire for relationship with the wildish self overflows, then to speak one's soul from that frame of mind. That is singing over the bones. We cannot make the mistake of attempting to elicit this great feeling of love from a lover, for this woman's labour of finding and singing the creation hymn is a solitary work, a work carried out in the desert of the psyche. Let us consider La Loba herself. In the symbolic lexicon of the psyche, the psyche, the symbol of the old woman, is one of the most widespread archetypal personifications in the world. Others are the great mother and father, the divine child, the trickster, the sorcerer, sorceress, the maiden, the youth, the heroine, warrior, and the fool-ess. Yet a figure like La Loba can be considered very vastly different in the essence and effect, for she is symbol of the feeder, root to an entire instinctual system. In the Southwest, the archetype of the old woman can be apprehended as old La Que-Sabe. Is that right? La Que-Sabe, the one who knows.
La que sabe.
Thank you. I first came to understand La Que-Sabe when I lived in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in New Mexico under the heart of Loba Peak. An old witch from the ranchos told me that La Que-Sabe knew everything about women, that La Que-Sabe had created women from a wrinkle on the sole of her divine foot. This is why women are knowing creatures. They are made in essence of the skin of the soul, which feels everything, which fills everything. This idea that the skin of the foot is sentient and the ring of truth for an acculturated Quiche tribeswoman once told me that she had worn her first pairs of shoes when she was 20 years old and was still not used to walking con los ojos vendados, with blindfolds on her feet. The wild essence that inhabits nature has been called by many names and crisscrosses all nations down through the centuries. These are some of the old names for Hen. The mother of days is the mother creator, God of all beings and doings, including the sky and the earth. The mother Nix has domain over all filings from the mud and the dark. Durga controls the skies and the winds and the thoughts of humans from which all reality spreads. Kotliscu gives birth to the infant universe, which is rascally and hard to control. But like a wolf mother, she bites her child's ear to contain it. Hecate, the old seer who knows her people and has about her the smell of humans and the breath of God. And there are many, many more. These are the images of who lives under the hill far off in the desert, out in the deep. By whatever name the force personified by La Loba records the personal past and the ancient past, for she has survived generations after generation and is old beyond time. She is an archivist of feminine intention, She preserves female tradition. Her whiskers sense the future. She has far-seeing milky eye of the old crone. She lives backward and forward in time simultaneously, correcting for one side by dancing with the other. The old one, the one who knows, is within us. She thrives in the deepest soul psyche of women, the ancient and vital wild self. Her home is that place in time where the spirit of women and the spirit of the wolf meet, the place where mind and instincts mingle, where a woman's deep life funds her mundane life. That's really interesting, where the woman's deep life funds her mundane life. It is the point where I and the thou kiss, the place where all in all spirit women run with the wolves. This old woman stands between the worlds of rationality and mythos. She is the knucklebone on which these two worlds turn. This land between the worlds, is that inexplicable place we all recognize once we experience it, but its nuances slip away and change if one tries to pin them down, except when we use poetry, music, dance, of story. Who wants to go next? There is a speculation of the immune system. I'm done there. Diane? Or no?
Okay.
There is a speculation that the immune system of the body.
There's speculation that the immune system of the body is rooted in this mysterious psychic land, and also the mystical, as well as all archetypal images and urges, including our God hunger, our yearning for the mysteries, and all the sacred instincts, as well as those which are mundane. Some would say the records of humankind, the root of light, the coil of dark, are also here. It is not a void, but rather the place of the mist beings, where things are and also are not yet, where shadows have substance and substance is sheer. One thing about this land is certain: it is old, older than the oceans. It has no age, it is ageless. The wild woman archetype funds this layer, emanating from the instinctual psyche. Although she can take on many guises in our dreams and creative experiences, she is not from the layer of the mother, the maiden, the medial woman, and she is not the inner child. She is not the queen, the Amazon, the lover, the seer. She is just what she is. Call her la que sabe, the one who knows. Call her wild woman. Call her la loba. Call her by her high names or by her low names. Call her by her newer names or her ancient ones. She remains just what she is. Wild woman as an archetype is an inimitable and ineffable force which carries a bounty of ideas, images, and particularities for humankind. Archetype exists everywhere, and yet it is not sensible in the usual sense. What can be seen of it in the dark cannot necessarily be seen in the daylight. We find lingering evidence of archetype in the images and symbols found in stories, literature, poetry, painting, and religion. It would appear that its glow, its voice, and its fragrance are meant to cause us to be raised up from contemplating the shit on our tails to occasionally traveling in the company of the stars. And at La Loba's place, the physical body is, as poet Tony Moffat writes, a luminous animal. And the body's immune system seems, via anecdotal reports, to be strengthened or weakened by conscious thought. At La Loba's place, the spirits manifest personages and la voz mirolo, a mirror.
Mythologica is it's
Mythologica.
yeah.
Mythological voice of the deep psyche speaks as poet and oracles. Things of psychic value, once dead, can be revived. Alas, the basic material of all stories existent in the world ever began with someone's experience here in this inexplicable psychic land and someone's attempt to relate what occurred to them here. There are various names for this locus betwixt the worlds. Jung called it variously the collective unconscious, the objective psyche, and the psychoid unconscious, referring to a more ineffable layer of the former. He thought of the latter as a place where that is the psychoid unconscious. He thought of the latter as a place where the biological and psychological worlds share headwaters, where biology and psychology might mingle with and influence one another. Throughout human memory, this place, call it Nod, call it the house of the mist beings, the crack between the worlds, is the place where visitations, miracles, imaginations, inspirations, and healings of all natures occur. Though this site transmits great psychic wealth, it must be approached with preparation, for one may be tempted to joyously drown in the rapture of one's time there. Consensual reality may seem less exciting by comparison. In this sense, these deeper layers of psyche can become a rapture trap from which people return unsteady with wobbly ideas and airy presentiments. That is how it is meant to be. How one is meant to return is wholly washed or dipped in a revivifying and informing water, something which impresses upon our flesh the odor of the sacred. Each woman has potential access to Rio Abajo Rio, this river beneath the river. She arrives there through deep meditation, dance, writing, painting, prayer making, singing, drumming, active imagination, or any activity which requires an intense altered consciousness. A woman arrives in this world between worlds through yearning and by seeking something she can see just out of the corner of her eye. She arrives there by deeply creative acts, through intentional solitude, and by practice of any of the arts. And even with these well-crafted practices, much of what occurs in this ineffable world remains forever mysterious to us, for it breaks physical laws and rational laws as we know them. The care with which this psychic state must be entered is recorded in a small but powerful story of four rabbis who yearn to see the most sacred wheel of Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Do you think I think it's a good place to maybe talk about that and then maybe go on to that bit next week because it's about 4 pages. What do you think?
Well, I'll read the short story here of the four rabbinim.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to this next week.
Yeah.
One night, four rabbis were visited by an angel who awakened them and carried them to the seventh vault of the seventh heaven. They were beheld there. There they beheld the sacred wheel of Ezekiel. Somewhere in the descent from paradise to earth, one rabbi, having seen such splendor, lost his mind and wandered frothing and foaming until the end of his days. The second rabbi was extremely cynical, Oh, I just dreamed Ezekiel's wheel, that was all. Nothing really happened. The third rabbi carried on about what he had seen, for he was totally obsessed. He lectured and would not stop with how it was all constructed and what it all meant. And in this way, he went astray and betrayed his faith. The fourth rabbi, who was a poet, took a paper in hand and a reed and sat near the window writing song after song, praising the evening dove, his daughter in her cradle, and all the stars in the sky, and he lived his life better than before. Okay. Can anybody think we just finished the red book? Can anybody think of a parallel to what this story is about from the red book?
It reminds me of Philemon a little bit. You know, the way he and his wife lived very simply, enjoyed just simple things in life.
Mhm.
Just,
Well, what I'm reminded of is the anchorite, the old man in the desert, who just sat there and studied his book and pointed out that nobody understood the words of the book, and and presumably the book he was looking at was the Bible. That's left unsaid, but um, a sequence of words can mean more than one thing. And a sequence of words, I mean, in terms of this La Lobo, I'm not talking about the four Rubinum now, but this, it's really the lesson that the anchorite taught Jung was that the the bones, the bones of the book in this case, um, meant more than one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Deborah left and she said, Gotta go. Just wanted to say how important this group is to me. As Azine was saying, everything is changing right now. And
Yeah.
we surely feel that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Just on the tail of what you said, it seems to me that the more wisdom is packed into a series of words, the more meanings there are.
yeah.
I think of that, like it was of Shakespeare. It's it's just so astonishing to read a passage of Shakespeare and look at it in all these different ways, and everything is true. The same with the Red Book.
Mhm.
Are you reading particular Shakespeare, Tim, at the moment? Are you reading anything in particular?
Not in particular, no.
It's the same thing with Hafiz because it has layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You read something and there are layers of meaning into it, and there's space. The space between these layers, I think it's
Yeah. And each time you read something like that, you get more out of it.
Yeah.
And even now, as you say, Azine, we're taking more out of it in our experience of reading it now. Um, and
And there's
You know,
something else as well that it's really difficult to put into words, but it's almost as if when you're trying to you're coming to something and you're trying to get a deeper understanding, sometimes it's letting go of the understanding and experiencing it on a level where it's not actually a mental feeling your way through it. I suppose I want to say
yeah,
your way
Yes.
through it instead of thinking your way through it can lead to
Sensing.
wisdom. Yeah, and I've found that harder to do than the thinking way through. To me, intellectualizing something can be easier than coming at it with bare feet, that feeling it through your feet that she spoke about in the story of taking the shoes off and feeling testing the
yeah,
land to get the feel of something through the emotions. I mean,
They're called ways of knowing, and one of them is mind, the other one is intuition, feeling, and sensation.
yeah,
So you
I think, yeah,
can relate, because knowing is relating to life, and you can relate to life through your body or intuition, feeling.
and we
And
can understand that all those.
we're trained to learn it by thinking and our mind, but there are other ways, certainly.
You know, the rabbis here, the fourth rabbi is more up my street because the fourth rabbi, who was a poet, took a paper in hand and a reed, and he sat near
Yeah.
the window, writing song after song, praising the evening hour,
Doodling.
daughter in her cradle, and all the stars in the sky. And he lived his life better than before. The
yeah.
rest of them,
And you know, this all points back to why I'm urging Tim to put his thoughts down, and that is that all of these things meet this specification that Lawrence Jaffe gave us. The purpose of Jung's whole psychology is to make accessible to us that healing power which resides in our unconscious.
Yes. In
And
creativity.
right. And this is what I get from looking at Tim's work or Colleen's work. They open me up and and allow me to heal in ways that I cannot explain, but or I shouldn't explain. If I try to explain them, then I'm mansplaining, and it's not worth it to do that. One shouldn't explain. I mean, it's like, well, just if you take a photograph, the photograph would be Earthrise that Scott Anders took on Apollo 8. The first picture of the Earth showing the moon in the foreground. Or the other one is the Galileo photo that was taken in the mid 20 teens from the Galileo spacecraft, looking back at the Earth from Saturn.
Oh gosh,
And you know, if you look at those or you look at Tim's work um, or Jung's work, uh, you know, they open you up in ways you can't say how they do it. But you don't need to say how they do it. What they do is they make accessible the healing power of the unconscious. And that in itself is the benefit.
But that seed is in every one of us, and we haven't
Sure.
trained. When we train, we can do part of it anyhow. I think everyone.
Surely.
in dreams as well.
Yes.
Well, and all religion has learned to draw us through these difficult times. If we take a funeral, for example, where they open us up and allow us to be healed from the loss of a friend or a loved one. And we can't put a finger on it necessarily at the moment, but that's where these rituals came from. They were spontaneously developed over thousands of years. And they did because the ritual itself opened up the unconscious, the healing power. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Weddings are the same in a different way because family is rent by the son leaving the house and taking a wife, and the daughter leaving her family and creating her own family. And that's quite painful for lots of people, but the marriage ceremony opens us to healing from that.
Could I ask Tim? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What can you tell us, summarize the story of the Wheel of Ezekiel?
The will of Ezekiel?
Yeah,
No, I don't think I can.
I don't know it, so I was wondering.
Well, I'll tell you where you can hear a summary of it.
Okay.
Uh, Go to the famous song of the Flying Purple People Eater.
Oh, that's the one you told. I have to look it up.
I'm not kidding.
I know you did tell me that. I don't know why we were talking about it, but you did say that. The wheel, in particular, the wheel of Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Got that. Okay.
I mean, there are pictures of the wheel of Ezekiel that some artists have attempted on Google. You can find some. But
Oh, I remember what it is. I remember looking this up. It's the
I just looked
chamber.
ChatGPT and it said the wheel, what the wheel symbolizes divine mobility.
Yeah,
The
it's the
wheel
chariot.
suggests
It's
that
the
God's
chariot car.
presence is not limited to
But
one's place, like Jerusalem, temple, even in exile in Babylon, God's glory can move anywhere. This was revolutionary for the exiled Israelites. God wasn't confined to a building or nation. There's more here. Do you know what I would like to do though? You see this little bit here, it really, I think this is a nice place to leave it because he talks about the transcendent function. So can I read this little bit here?
sure.
Okay. Who saw what in the seventh vault of the seventh heaven we do not know, but we do know that the contact with the world wherein the essences reside causes us to know something beyond the usual hearing of humans and fills us with a feeling of expansion and grandeur as well. When we touch the authentic fundament of the one who knows, it causes us to react and act from our deepest integral nature. The story recommends that the optimal attitude for the experiencing the deep unconscious is one of neither too much fascination nor too little, one of not too much awe, but neither too much cynicism, bravery, yes, but not recklessness. Jung cautions in his magnificent essay, The Transcendent Function, that some persons in their pursuit of the self will can you say I need help with that word, like an anesthetic
Aestheticize?
okay,
Aestheticize?
yeah, the God or self experience. Some will undervalue it, some will overvalue it, and some who are not ready for it will be injured by it, but still others will find their way to what Jung called the moral obligation to live out and to express what one has learned in the descent or ascent to the wild self. This moral obligation he speaks of means to live what we perceive, be it found in the psychic Elysian, Leysian fields, the isles of the dead, the bone deserts or the site of the psyche, the face of the mountain, the rock of the sea, the lush underworld, any place where La Quesabe breathes upon us, changing us. Our work is to show we have been breathed upon, to show it, give it out, sing it out, to live out in the topside world that we have received. Through our sudden knowings from body, from dreams and journeys of all sorts. La Loba parallels world myths in which the dead are brought back to life. In Egyptian mythos, Isis accomplishes this service for her dead brother Osiris, who is dismembered by his evil brother. Set every night, Isis works from dusk to dawn, each night to piece her brother back together again before morning, else the sun will not rise. That's very beautiful. Piecing yourselves, piecing back together, because otherwise the sun doesn't rise. The Christ raised Lazarus, who had been dead so long, he stinketh. It's quite funny. He stinketh. Sorry. Demeter calls forth her pale daughter Persephone from the land of the dead once a year, and Laloba sings over the bones. This is our meditation practice as women and men, yeah? Calling back the dead and dismembered aspects of ourselves, calling back the dead and dismembered aspects of life itself. The one who recreates from that which has died is always a double-sided archetype. The creation mother is always also the death mother. And this is true. She's both the good mother, the bad mother. It's just one. And vice versa, because of this dual nature of doubt, double tasking, the great work before us is to learn to understand what around and about us, what within us must live and what must die. This is a daily task, you know, otherwise we do become apathetic.
Well, and it's not time dependent. Okay. In other words,
No.
in other
It
words,
may not
when
even
Tim
be this
did this
lifetime
sculpture,
dependent.
Tim did this sculpture,
Yeah.
this event occurred. Okay, it occurred about 1990 or so, but it also occurred at the time of Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. As I was thinking about the concept of singing, now I'm getting an understanding of what it means. Like, I'm working on 4 books right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the essence of my experience in underworld, in this world. And to sing, so it means that to letting go, it's your task, it's your duty to share your experiences with the self in a beautiful way, in a harmonious way. And about dismembering, when our journey starts with the fool, it's the zero point of this journey. And as the fool, we are whole.
Yeah.
And we start the journey of knowing self-knowledge and stuff, knowing the world and ourselves, and we become dismembered because each part needs to know the other part. So we are separated and dismembered. And it looks like in this process of collecting the bones and rebirth of the new wolf or the other creature, we remember, like Dionysus who is remembered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happens when you get older. you're constantly remembering your experiences like flashlights.
Yeah.
And you remember, and every time it's just an opportunity to get the essence of create something out of it and share it with the existence.
This is good. So it says our work is to be apprehended, the timing, our work is to apprehend the timing of both, to allow what must die to die and what must live to live. For women, El Rio Abajo Rio, the river beneath the river world, the bone woman, home, place, contains direct knowing about seedlings, root, stock, the seed, of the world. In Mexico, women are said to carry la luz de la vida, the light of life. You see, we carry that until we leave here, and then maybe we carry it further. This light is not located not in the woman's heart, not behind her eyes, but en los ovaros, in her ovaries, where all the seed stock is laid down before she is even born. For men exploring the deeper ideas of fertility and the nature of seed, the cross-gender image is the furry bag, los cojons, the scrutums.
Scrotum.
Scrutums.
Los
Cojones.
cojones. Los cojones.
Well, it is
the knowing.
beautiful. It is beautiful in Montana, I must say.
Yeah, I was going to say so too. It makes me homesick.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
is the knowing. This is the knowing to be gained in being close to the wild woman. When La Loba sings, she sings from the knowing of the los ovaras, the ovaries, a knowing from deep within the body, deep within the mind, deep within the soul. The symbols of seed and bone are very similar. If one has the root stock, the base is the original part. If one has the seed corn, any havoc can be repaired. Devastations can be resown. Fields can be rested. Hard seed can be soaked to soften it, to help it break open and thrive. To have the seed means to have the key to life. To be with the cycles of the seed means to dance with life, dance with death, dance into life again. This embodies the life and Death Mother in her most ancient and principled form, because she turns in these constant
I have
cycles.
to call a halt to this meeting. I'm sorry. She who must be obeyed has called.
Last sentence. I call her the life, death, life mother.
And so I cannot deny her.
I remember where we are. Let me tell you.
I have to make a comment about Mary's picture. Mary, you keep disappearing into your picture like a prayer.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Has anybody else noticed that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's magical. How do you do that?
The same way I disappear into
Jung's house.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay. Well,
I can do that.
Get a good night's rest, Skip. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
I can't do it today.
All right.
I'm glad you're back, Azine.
We gotta go. See you next week. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.